Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button if you guys are enjoying the content that we're throwing up. And make sure you guys hit the like button if you enjoy the video. And yeah, let's begin. All right, guys, we are here with the finale of Dark Designs. Really, it's not even the finale, it's the beginning of the Joker War, right? I love how this is being done. Right, here's the thing. I love what James Tynion's doing with Batman, right? It's the best thing coming out of what used to be DC Rebirth. I love what he's doing with Batman. I was a fan of Tom King's run. I would say that this whole thing, Dark Designs, is an amazing story, right? I would say this follows very closely to Snyder's Batman run, if that gives you any indication. But what this does here is this initially picks up with Bruce Wayne in his younger years. And Bruce Wayne is more or less just kind of waiting on a guy. Like just sitting at a table, doing these little designs of Gotham City. It's kind of funny because he basically says they were never really a design for the city. The dark designs were always for him, right? But he ultimately ends up basically, you know, tracking this guy down, finding him, and then basically following him. And he basically tells him, look, like, I followed your clues. I know you're in there. Like, I know who you are. You know, I need to talk to you. And ultimately, you know, Bruce Wayne kind of makes his way in. And this guy basically says, or at least Bruce reveals this guy's name is Cassander Wycliffe Baker. Now, for those of you guys who were following our story, or at least following the Dark Designs, this guy was the nemesis of the designer, right? The guy that the designer basically spent all this time trying to track down, or at least trying to defeat, spent years and years and years in a room creating a plan, so that by the time this guy Baker figured out what was going on, the plan was already almost done, right? And Baker's days were essentially finished. The other funny thing about this too is that Baker basically, you know, indicates he knows who Bruce Wayne is, right? He knows exactly who he is, which isn't really the biggest thing in the world, right? It's like from Batman Begins that like Bruce Wayne he'd have to travel 2,000 miles to find somebody who didn't know his name. But the way that James Tynion really kind of hits on this to really show how good of a detective this guy is he says, like, I can tell from the cut of your jacket which port of Japan you traveled here from, right? I can tell you where you learned the art of the katana, right? I can tell you where you were when you learned how to slow your heartbeat. I know all these things about you, right? The cut of your hair tells me where you learned how to fly. The calluses on your hand tell me where you learned to forge metal. Like, I know all these things about you. I know everything about you just by looking at you. That's how good this detective was, right? That's how good Baker was. You could take one glimpse at Bruce Wayne and then say, I know everywhere you've been within the last, you know, however long. And when Bruce asks, how could you possibly know? Baker kind of reveals this secret room where he has like all these pictures all over the place, right? And it's kind of like this is everything I know about this place, right? Everything I know about you, everything I know about everything. I've seen all kinds of stuff. And he says, I'm going to teach you the most important lesson. I'm not going to teach you how to be a detective. I'm going to teach you how to lose. And that's a super important thing here. And on the surface, it's easy for you to kind of be like, okay, that's weird, right? And to kind of write it off. No, it's not necessarily important to win. It's important to know how to lose, because if you know how to lose, you know how to understand why you lost, you know how to correct the reason you lost, and then you know how to win. Because the reality of this is you don't win 100% of the time, right? It's like that line from Ocean's 11, right? Like, because the house always takes you, right? No matter how long you play, if you play long enough, the house wins, unless when that perfect hand comes along, you bet big and then you take the house. That's basically what this is, right? It's Batman being taught at a very young age, you're going to lose. It's going to happen, right? It's inevitable. But what you have to learn is how to recover from that loss and how to go forward accordingly. And so what we end up doing is picking up in the immediate aftermath of the last video that we covered, right? The last comic where basically Batman was stabbed through the leg by Deathstroke. Now, a lot of people kind of looked at it as though it was some kind of a joke, right? Like Batman stabbed through the leg. You know, what's the case? It's not just a random leg stabbing, right? Like Deathstroke hit an artery. Now, technically, if he really wanted to kill Batman in 30 seconds, he would have stabbed him in that artery right down there in the groin, right? You'll bleed out like that, right? It'll take no time at all. But he stabbed him in a location where it's like one of these things, if you pull it out, you're going to bleed to death. And that's why Lucius Fox was basically contacted to get in here, because it bought Deathstroke time, right? It bought Deathstroke the time he needed to basically leave, right? So Lucius Fox has to get here. Batman's not going to go anywhere. He's not going to go running out, because any major movement he makes takes the risk of you know, exacerbating this stab or this injury with this sword. So he's going to have to just wait until Lucius gets there. Then Lucius is going to do whatever he has to do. He's not a medic, right? He's not Alfred. He's not a trained doctor, right? So he's going to do whatever he can. And then there's a time for Batman to recover, however long it takes for him to recover. That buys Deathstroke a breadth of time. And when you're talking about a scenario like this, all Deathstroke really needs is like half an hour to 45 minutes. And he's on a plane gone out of Gotham City, and who knows where he's at. And this is also singularly more important because while Batman wouldn't normally have the resources to track Deathstroke down if he wanted to, remember, all those resources are gone now, right? So you end up having basically Lucius Fox, who kind of just throws like a compression bandage, more or less, onto Batman, which does enough to kind of keep him from bleeding out all over the place. You know, it's more or less just kind of like taking your hand and covering over the wound and putting pressure on it. That's all it really does. It's a stopgap measure, right? The response is like, Bruce, you have to go to a hospital and get some kind of surgery done or something like that, because if you don't, you're just gonna bleed out. And so what Lucius does is immediately start dropping all this information, right? Like Batman tells Lucius, like, they have the fortune now, right? Joker has all my account numbers, all that information. He's got everything about me. And the response of Lucius is, yeah, I know. Lawyers have already seized your house. Like you're wanted for embezzling millions of dollars, which we know Bruce Wayne was doing, or at least that seemed to be the case, that like Bruce was funneling money, or he was embezzling money out of the company into foreign accounts, and Wayne Enterprises itself was doing that, running through foreign banks. Bruce Wayne's wanted for all of that, right? So he's wanted by the law, his fortune's gone, he has nothing, right? It's just like, there's really nothing he can do. And the response of Lucius Fox is, I would love to be in your corner the way that Alfred was. I'd love to be the guy who would be here and help you every step of the way. But if I'm gonna fight this off, I have to operate as the CEO of Wayne Enterprises. I can only keep them at bay for so long. So I can't be in your corner. I have to go take care of this, right? And it's one of these things where he says, if I was Alfred, sure, I'd be able to do that, right? Because Alfred was a Swiss Army knife. Alfred did everything, but I'm not Alfred Pennyworth. I'm Lucius Fox, and all I can do is the best that I can do. And so in turn, you have Batman who asks, where's Selina Kyle, right? You think he would have asked that already because it's the woman he's gonna marry, but he's like, where's Selina Kyle? And the response to Lucius is, she was shot, she's in a hospital, and then he's just like, I want to talk to her right now. Where Lucius is a little hesitant about that, focusing more on the health of Batman that he's getting ready to pass out. You know, Batman's like, I don't want to hear any of it. I want to talk to Selina Kyle. And this basically leads to Lucius kind of putting his daughter on the phone, who puts Selina on the phone, and Selina's kind of in and out of consciousness, right? She's barely making it. She's just slightly unconscious. And it's one of these things where Batman kind of hits at where he feels like he fell short, right? Where he feels like he kind of screwed up. It's one of the great things Tynion's focused on here, and it's one of the elements that's fallen under the radar, right? There was this really good moment when Batman confronted Deathstroke, and they were kind of going back and forth in this argument, and Deathstroke was like, you were the one who like you stepped it up first, right? Like you were the one that made things worse first. We were criminals who were doing things. You stepped it up against us, right? Like you exacerbated the situation. And Batman's response was, yes, I know. And that's really kind of how Bruce Wayne was, right? That Bruce Wayne was a kid whose parents were shot in front of him, and he's been crying about it his whole life. And he ended up going through all these different training sessions, learning all these different things. And when he came back to Gotham City, he didn't meet with an equal force. He met with overwhelming force, right? He hammered him. It's like, what was it? The Dark Knight, the Dark Knight film. He hammered and hammered and hammered all these different guys to the point of desperation. He's the one that made things worse. That instead of responding to them with an adequate force, he responded with more than what he needed. And that's what made things worse in Gotham City. It was Batman's actions that pushed people further and further. And it's what made things more and more extreme. Not only that, he, because of the life he lived, because of the person that he was, he systematically pushed away everybody that cared about him, right? Everybody that mattered to him, he pushed every single one of them away. And it led him to where he is right now. This was not the life Selina Kyle was banking on. Selina Kyle joined up with Batman because she was expecting a better life. She was expecting things to improve, but Batman made them worse. And so the result of this is that he basically says, like, I'm going to go and I'm going to try to clean this up, and I'm going to try to make sure everything's sorted out. Hopefully you can forgive me, and hopefully you'll be here when I get back. But he's like, I'll kind of be waiting on you. And in his anger and in his rampage, of course, he smashes a window. But Lucius Fox is kind of shocked to hear that Batman's actually going to go out, right? He's got a stab in his leg where he's just bleeding out, but he's going to go out there and continue to fight anyway. It's one of these things where Batman's making a stupid choice. He's making a stupid decision that he seems to kind of be overcome with emotion. But the reality of this is when he kind of chimes in and he says, Lucius, it's not just vengeance here. It's not me just pissed off because my money was taken and I'm really mad. He's like, there's a bigger picture at play here. The Joker has all my resources. He has everything that Batman had. He's got all the Batmobiles. He's got everything in Wayne Manor. He's got all the money. He's got all the technology. Everything that I use in order to function as Batman is now in possession of the Joker. So here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna call up Leslie Tompkins, who most of you guys know is the one that basically, she's kind of like the night nurse from Marvel Comics, right? She's the one that basically runs a free clinic where she tends to the injuries of various heroes, some villains, depending on what the situation is. And then he basically says, like, what you are about to see in the city of Gotham is going to be an attack from the Joker, and it's going to be like nothing we've ever seen before, right? Because this is not the Joker flooding the city with Joker toxin like he did during Endgame. It's nothing like that. This is Joker on a whole new level. It's the Joker with advanced technology and with insanity who in the hell knows what he's going to do, right? And so you kind of switch over to Deathstroke for a moment, and this is kind of a quick throwaway thing, and it's easy to ignore, but it's massively significant because you've got Deathstroke talking to Lady Shiva, or I guess Cheshire is really what her name is, but you know, she's kind of like, nobody here is, they're all kind of pissed off that they were used, and Deathstroke's like, I don't really care, you know, they were getting paid well for it. And when she asks, like, what are you doing? He just says like 9 million people. And she's like, what? And he's like, I'm just taking one last look. And like literally looking at this city of 9 million people, which is about to devolve into absolute chaos and pandemonium. Switch over to Batman, who goes to get Catwoman because he knows Joker's going to start coming after everybody. When he gets there, she's gone. He has no idea where Catwoman's gone to. She's just vanished. Now, initially the implication was the Joker's henchmen showed up and snatched her up. No, the Joker's henchmen are there and they're like, it was a smart move getting rid of Catwoman. So they don't know where Catwoman is. And where they kind of make this offhanded remark of, you know, I doubt the boss would care if we had some crossfire, some casualties. And they ask him, and Joker's on the phone and he's like, no, I really wouldn't mind. I'm in such a good mood. Go ahead and take out a whole floor if you want to, right? And where Batman asks the Joker, do you have Catwoman? He says, no. She bailed the second that she was stitched up, right? She saw this coming, man. I don't know why you didn't, but she saw this coming. Right? Like maybe she knows your real bae's back in town. Who knows? But whatever the reason is, she's out of here, right? Like she basically ended up taking off. And that's when the Joker starts to taunt Batman. He's like, oh, you're bleeding out. You got to go and get yourself stitched up, man, because with the war that I'm going to bring you, I want you at 100% because I want you to know that when you lost to me, you didn't lose because of some technicality. You didn't lose because you weren't functioning at full capacity. I want you to know you lost to me when you were at your best, right? I have your money. I have your house. I have your company. The Joker's like an ex-wife, right? Like I have your house, your car, your company. I have the kids. I have it all. I have the dog. Hell, I even took the goldfish. Like it's nuts, right? The Joker's like, I have everything of yours, man. I have everything that belongs to you. I'm going to take all these toys that you've been building in Wayne Enterprises. I'm going to take all these things and I'm going to use them, right? Like for years and years and years, you've been fighting me and I've been using the resources of an abandoned toy factory. Well, guess what? That's not the case anymore, man. You're totally alone. You have none of your resources. You have none of your money. You have nothing at your side. You've got no family. You've got no girlfriend. You've got no butler. You are absolutely and totally categorically alone. It doesn't look very good for you. That's what's so crazy because the Joker's like, I've got designs for this city, man. I've got designs for everything. I'm going to tear this city from the ground up and I'm going to rebuild it all. And you're going to be the one that pays for it all. And he says, so let's get this started. He says, boys, fire. They open city on Batman, just start spraying down. Batman jumps out of a window. You immediately switch to Catwoman, right? She wakes up kind of seemingly out of the middle of nowhere. And we find out she was rescued by the Penguin. That the Penguin's like, man, this is a pretty wild situation. Like it's initially, you know, she kind of says, well, you know, when he asks about the designer, she says the designer's dead, right? Joker's been playing us this entire time. And the Penguin's like, okay, so like I can let you into the private lounge. This private lounge is called the Cool Room, right? This whole place basically houses, and it's actually so cool to see the Mad Hatter again. I haven't seen him in a while, but it houses basically almost all of Batman's villains, right? And the response to the Joker is like, this place is basically a safe house, that when things pop off, this is where we go. Like when things are bad enough that the whole city's in jeopardy, this is where we basically kind of hang out at until things get terrible. I don't see Kite Man, which really kind of sucks, right? I'd love to see Kite Man. Hell yeah. But nonetheless, you know, when Catwoman says like, I need to get out of here, the response of the Penguin is that's not possible. This entire place is in lockdown, right? It's a Joker attack, which is kind of wild, right? To hear that like when the Joker decides to attack Gotham City, this is how all the villains react, right? There's no like holding the Joker off. It's like, okay, guys, let's all go into lockdown. Let's go underground. You know, the Penguin says hundreds of people, probably even thousands are going to die. We're sitting this one out, right? So like buckle in, Catwoman. It's going to be a long, bloody summer. It's nuts. And so you end up switching back over to Batman, who's just kind of musing to himself, right? Talking about everything that he had learned from Alfred, how Alfred always wanted him to strive for better, how Alfred looked at Bruce Wayne, who was kind of governed by this notion of vengeance and was kind of like, you have to become better. And Bruce Wayne finally kind of buys into it and says, yes, you know, with the entire city, with me being the only thing that I have left, yes, I ask you for a signal. What do I do? And he kind of gets one in the form of like an electric storm. And he says, I will become a better Batman, right? Now, we don't know what this means. That's what makes this so cool. We don't know if Bruce is like, yes, I'm going to become a better Batman. I'm going to be more ruthless. I'm going to be more cruel. I'm going to be like I was after Jason Todd died, basically, until like Tim Drake showed up into my life and became the new Robin. Or if he's like, I'm going to be a more honorable Batman, right? I'm going to make up for the failings that I had when I initially became the guy that I became. Is he going to be a Batman who works alongside all the other villains to take out the Joker? We have no idea. We got to wait till the next issue. With that being said, guys, we're going to bring this video to an end. If you are new here to Comics Explained, make sure you guys hit the sub button to become part of the Rob Corps. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you drop a like. Now I'll catch you all later. Peace.